Hi, it's nice to talk to you again, and thank you for retweeting about the interview.
Hi, Jamie. Nice to see you again.
So, I wanted to know if you would kind of tease. We've seen three of them so far, but can you kind of tease about this character from your past that's coming, and sort of about your relationship with him?
Well, I don't know. How much do you know about him? Um, yes, I can tease because actually it's a really, really fun, well, to me, it's a fun story that years and years ago, right at the creation of the show, I had a conversation with Dean Devlin and John Rogers and Chris Downey about what might be my ideas for Sophie's backstory. And actually, all this time later, it suddenly come to fruition, and we're using a version of that backstory. So it feels very satisfying, and very very true to character. So Sophie, at the beginning of the season, she's hit her stride. She's loving life. She's loving being the mastermind, and she's thrown off her kind of her widow clothing, and she's like really kind of in, as I say, in her groove. And then suddenly she gets stopped in her tracks by this character from her past, from her early criminal life. And he basically finagles his way back into her life. And then it turns out that there is an expectation that she let him down, and that there's a debt to pay on her part. And so that throws a lot of conflict up into her and the team. And I've got some really fun stuff with Elliot, where he's like confronting her and facing off with her and saying, you haven't been transparent and you're putting us all in danger. And then there's that part of it, but it's sort of top and tails the season. We've got a couple of kind of teasers of that in the beginning, and then at the end of the season, it all gets kind of resolved in a really fun and exciting way. Really great episodes at the back end. But in between, Christian's character has a really great like emotional season arc. I've got some really nice stuff with Brianna, where I get very maternal, and I'm sort of encouraging her to go out into the world and not necessarily attach herself to this group of misfits. And yeah. and then Sophie's really starts to enjoy watching Harry dip his toe deeper and deeper into his kind of criminal life, and playing at being a kind of amateur grifter, when he gets quite pro towards the end of the season. So yeah, there's a lot going on this season. It's really good fun, all of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's nice to see her backstory, though. I mean, not that everything we know is true. I mean, this part probably, but you don't always know with her. It's hard to tell. So as I was watching, actually, I think it might have even been that episode, but like, there's so many moving parts to these cons. Do you ever kind of stop and be like, wait, what? What are we doing now? Because I had to rewind it. I'm like, what's going on?
All the time, like Beth and I particularly, and and Christian, because in some ways, obviously we're with Christian a lot when we're doing kind of, the group stuff, the heavy dialogue, heavy stuff. But a lot of the time, Christian's like removed from us because he's away doing his fighting and his stunts, and those are very, very time consuming. And they can take, days where he's kind of not with us, and then we all come back together, and we're all kind of like, wait, did we break into the safe yet? Have they found us? It is, especially because we don't film in
order, yeah.
In order. So it can get a little confusing, but we go with it.
Now, I know last time you talked about how sort of the smaller characters you don't get into really hard a lot, make it more difficult, but for the characters that you do get to work with a lot, is it hard kind of like flipping back and forth? And also, do you have like a favorite out of them?
Do I have a favorite from the Leverage team? Are you
no from the identities, from her identity?
Oh, I thought you were saying, do I have a favorite on the Leverage team? I'm like, I mean,
we hope.
Yeah, you trying to get me like fired. Yeah, I do have favorites. I mean, and in fact, this season there's an episode called The Work Study Job, and I created a character in that episode where I play a science professor, and I took some elements from some other con characters that I played. I took elements of the character from First Contact job and elements from the character from The Office job, and I put them into this science professor, and I did this sort of fun, quirky, kind of kooky character. I like the kookier the better for me. That's where I'm like really in my happy place.
How do you, as you're coming up with them though, how do you, I guess, make sure that they're all different? And in that case, obviously you said you took pieces, but when you have so many different ones, how do you kind of keep track of what you've done and what you haven't done? And because you sound like you have better track of it than I do.
It's funny because, you know, as good as the writing is, and obviously the scripts, the cons are the most, you know, important, challenging aspects that they all have to kind of like track and be logical, and all of that stuff is quite tricky. Sometimes you'll find a logic hole. A couple of times this season I was like, that's a logic hole, and then things get tweaked and changed. As good as the writing is, sometimes it's not on the page, and maybe that's partly because they trust us. So like this season I had to play a reporter, and you know, it just said, you know, reporter on the page, but I sort of went away and I was like, okay, I want to be like a like a real kind of old school reporter, and she's gonna wear a 3-piece linen suit, and she's gonna smoke a pen, and she's gonna, and you just sort of, it just becomes a language that you speak. I know that probably might sound really pretentious, but like you start to read these scripts and it kind of jumps off the page, and you can see the people, you can see the character in very kind of like vivid ways. It's a bit like your backdrop right now. It all becomes like swirling colors, and then suddenly and yeah, sometimes I can just read that. I can just read, you know, Sophie gets out of the car dressed as a reporter, and I build something just from the first thing that pops into my hand.
Yeah, it just to me seems like it'd be really hard having that many different voices and accents and everything else, but you're good at it. So.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite costume? Because you get to wear so many different things in this show for variety.
Do I? I don't. You know, I've been playing this character for so long that we have like references. Like sometimes we're like, oh, is it a Sophie trench coat moment? Oh, is it a Sophie pearl string of pearl moment? Or is it a, you know, we do like reference things. I had a lot of fun with costumes this year, because obviously last year was quite limiting because I was wearing black through the whole season.
Yeah.
Apart from when I was in the cons. And this year I really wanted to be colorful and wear a lot of pattern, and I enjoyed that. I think I always really like doing the period episodes, the flashback episodes. Last year, the Day of the Jackal, I loved wearing all those like vintage costumes. That was really great fun. This year in the double finale, I get to wear this like absolutely beautiful, classic like purple suit, and I just felt so good in it. I just put it on. I was like, I feel amazing in this pantsuit. And some things are a bit more uncomfortable.
Well, they look good at least. That's what's important, right?
Oh, you know what? One really fun thing I do this year is I dressed up as a Christian Kane, and one of my characters I made I wore like a Caniac kind of like vibe. So
okay, I'll have to look forward to that. I'll have to wait and see that. I'm excited to see
we'll enjoy that.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. I'm waiting to see more. I love this show. So thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. And I still watch Coupling. I said that last time. Probably once a year I watch that. It cracks me up.
It's great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Have a good day.